you try your videos, you can minimize it.
I will, just a minute, I will. Now how to?
You'll have to minimize it, sir. Go to your PowerPoint and minimize. Yeah. Okay, we are in your desktop. Audio is not coming. Is there an audio, sir?
Yes, there is an audio.
Are you using earphones?
No.
But we aren't getting the audio.
I'll just call my technician. Just a minute. Dinesh.
There is separate operation. No. For audio.
Sir, I think it must be enabled, no, sir, or something else is an issue, or the output may not be connected.
Or if audio can be brought nearby, but once you use earphone, it may not pick up. No, that.
I think he is not using the earphone. This is end.
Video નું છે ને પેલું નથી આવતું. Audio નથી સાંભળાતું.
Not coming.
Audio ત્યાં નથી આવતું.
Audio is not coming, sir.
Audio is not coming?
No. Not coming.
If you keep the speaker near the signal, this computer, will it come?
The computer audio is enabled now, sir. Laptop audio. Troubleshoot sound problem.
Yes,
output device, speaker, volume, input device, system sounds, all are there only. Instead of opening with video player, can we open with some other things, software?
I'll check. In that only I can also, I mean, I've got several slides. Let me see. Before we move on, can you, is this audible?
Yeah. You are audible.
No, I'm saying this. Is this audible?
No, sir. Actually, you're in sharing now, sir. Stop sharing.
Now is it audible?
Sir, you are in sharing, sir. We are seeing your picture only. We are in.
We are not sharing the screen.
You are in sharing the screens. So now Cisco has come up with one more additional beta features, some lot of interesting things they have got. So if you see on your screen now, sir, left lower quadrant, you would see one CC. So now you can have captions. So if somebody is speaking and you can actually have live captions on. That is one beta feature. And they've got a new whiteboard feature also, sir, in Cisco. And you can seamlessly switch from your laptop to mobile also with the same account. You don't have to log in and all that. So many new features they have introduced.
Now, whatever you are speaking is coming on that, ma'am.
It's coming?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. If you put CC, that caption.
Yeah.
Actually, we enabled this feature. We had this Asia Pacific webinar, no? So some of the speakers had little different accents. So when we put it, is quite reasonable. It captures nicely.
My voice and your voice, it has captured correctly, ma'am.
Presenter again.
Okay.
Hello. Please make me presenter.
You're in.
Enable.
Sir, you are only the presenter, sir.
But then,
Yeah, only the presenter.
again.
Sir?
Yes.
You are only presenter. I have made you co-host also, sir. It should not be a problem. Sharing.
Sir has joined through. There is one more sir's name, one more device.
I don't know. No.
This device only I have made a co-host.
The side also, one more name is there as she's telling.
இல்ல அது இப்போ ஒரே ஒரு டிவைஸ் தான் இருக்கு.
இப்ப இல்ல மேம். இப்போ கொஞ்ச நேரத்துக்கு முன்னாடி இருந்துச்சு. நான் மட்டும். இப்ப இல்ல மேம். You have left that device.
Yeah, we are seeing your screen, sir. We are seeing the video, but still no audio.
No audio.
Sir, how big is this video, sir?
18 seconds.
Sir, you can send it to me, sir. I can play.
I have sent it to you.
Video also, sir? Okay, let me
send by WhatsApp.
No, not WhatsApp, sir. I'll take from mobile, this thing, WhatsApp. It'll compress it very much, so I'll find it difficult.
Audio is coming?
Not.
Your voice only is coming, sir. And I'm not got the presentation also, sir, for your information. It hasn't come.
Presentation I have not yet done because now presentation can you see, no?
Presentation can be seen. Voice is not. Your only oral voice is heard.
My voice and presentation both are seen, no?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. That and all is seen.
Okay. All right. Then I will send the video to you. It's all right. We forget about that video.
Okay, sir.
There are other videos also, but if they are not coming, it's all right. I mean, we can't.
Okay, sir.
About it. No problem. We can start. I think time is up. So
yeah. Sir, I'll have to stop. I'll have to take over being the presenter for a minute so that I will be able to share your CV. Okay. Good afternoon, friends. It's first Friday of the month of November. And we are back with our FFF webinar. This is series 16 we are starting. And we will be airing episode number 106 today. And we have a very unique topic and a very, very interesting speaker. We'll be talking about what is called as Code Krishna, like how we can actually respect the deceased and the dying. So this is more on palliative care. And the speaker here is Dr. Vaishnav. So he would be talking to us about his first-hand experience on how he has implemented this dignified death among his patients who require palliative care. So before we proceed, I would request Dr. Vishnu Bhatt, our Director Medical Research, to introduce the speaker and say a few words about the topic. Over to you, sir.
So good afternoon. It is very nice that we have a interesting talk from a person with a lot of experience. He is a professor of medicine and head of the department at the Pramukhswami Medical College in Karamsad, which belongs to the Bhaikaka University of Gujarat. He has a lot of interest, and of course he is different from our regular physicians in the sense he has a lot of interest in yoga, human care, integral health, etc. Code Krishna, probably the coined by him how to, as Dr. Mahalakshmi was telling, to respect the death and dying and beyond. That is very, very important because ultimately nobody can survive forever. We have to be born and then die at the end. Only the gap varies from individual to individual, but how to tackle that end point is, I think, is very important. And I think he will give us some guidance because with more and more elderly people and more sick people in the hospital and in our surroundings, we should know how to handle the situation. And our medical graduates and the faculty members should be well trained because it is an event where people like to have support, some sort of consolation at the end. So I am sure that this topic will be of very interest because it is not a usual topic in medicine or surgery or other specialities. And I'm sure that his talk will be of give a lot of insight and change our way of thinking things. And welcome Dr. Vaishnav. And we have a good number of audience and I am sure that they will be benefited by you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Before we hand over the stage to Dr. Vaishnav, we'd like to request the audience to put themselves on mute mode so that the audio quality is good for everyone. And I would also like to remind them that this session is being recorded and also being transmitted live on YouTube so that we could view this for posterior academic use and purposes. So that's from our end. And I would like to tell the speaker that I would be handling the chat box, sir. So in case any queries or questions come, we'll take it up and talk to you. The stage is yours, Dr. Vaishnav. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. At the outset, I express my gratitude to Dr. Bhatt sir and Dr. Mahalakshmi for giving me this opportunity of sharing an experience which we have carried out. It's an innovation for last several years. We have titled it as a Code Krishna. Am I audible? Hello?
Yes.
An innovative practice of respecting death, dying, and beyond. Now, the patients, they come to the hospital with disease, that is disease in the cells and tissues, illness, that is illness of the system, and suffering. And they seek treatment for disease, care for illness, and healing for their suffering. Now, conventional care paradigm hardly ever addresses all the three. We may be good in one or the other, but not all three. And Quote Krishna is one practice which aims at providing the missing link to connect the three in end-of-life moments.
Sir?
Its slide is not.
Sorry, please press next button or this thing. Annotation is on, sir. Something is going on.
Yes.
So you just you can use the keyboard, sir. Next the arrow, right hand row.
The mouse also forward, backward, you can do.
Annotate off. Stop annotating. Yes.
Yeah.
So the patients need treatment, care, and healing, all the three. And conventional care paradigm usually doesn't cover all the three. And Quote Krishna is an innovation or a practice which we thought that will attend to all the three, particularly in end-of-life moments or at the time of death. Now, the role of a doctor, true role of a doctor, if we use a psychological or a scientific term, what is called as a non-abandonment response. It is defined as open-ended, long-term caring commitment to joint problem solving. It remains consistently inadequate across various specialties. Although it is an important professional obligation, our obligation doesn't end when we write a prescription or advise an investigation or when we give treatment or tell the prognosis or do any intervention. It's a long-term caring commitment, combined problem solving, because doctor is indeed a friend, philosopher, and a guide, or at least supposed to be so, in patient's journey through any ailment, be it mild and self-limiting or severe and fatal. By friend, we mean somebody who walks by us, with us, by our side. Philosopher is one who walks by our side but has a higher understanding. He gives an insight. And guide is one who shows us the path. So a doctor is supposed to be a friend, in a way empathize. Philosopher means give a different perspective, and guide means one who gives a solution.
You are again stuck up, I think, no?
It's no.
Yeah, it is moving.
It is moved, sir. Death is a mystery.
Yes. Death is a mystery. We all know that it's a mystery, but what is the mystery that we don't know? But what we know is that the suffering it entails is huge. You see a person and the next day you see his photograph. There's a big difference. To see a person in a frame is not same. So the issues related to death and dying are relevant to one and all, yet conventionally and conveniently avoided by all health professionals. It is well known that human beings turn to wider and deeper meanings of life and death to seek solace in the suffering arising in moments of death. So whenever there is death or any tragedy, it's a human tendency to turn to higher existential truths and realities. Now, reaching out to patients or families and establishing connectedness during this crucial phase where a human being feels extremely vulnerable, is a professional obligation. I think we cannot emphasize it enough, but it is a professional obligation to reach out to a vulnerable patient. But the present day care paradigm falls short of this most of the time.
I think you should use the same button which you are using so that it will move.
I'm using the same, but
It is getting annotated. So you need to use the keyboard shortcut, sir. Keyboard right arrow or down arrow.
Right. Give me a moment.
Now it's okay.
Then he has gone out of the frame.
Yes, sorry. So this I stopped at this point, but not without any meaning. You can see a ECG line becoming straight. Now this is the medical perspective of life and death. That medical science views that death is a biological event. And death in ICU is often used as a defeat of attempts to prolong life. The doctor will try hard, will go an extra mile to make the patient live. But when the patient dies, it is often seen as a defeat to attempt to prolong the life. And any event of death.
ಈಗಲೂ ನೋಡ್ತೀನಿ ಮಾಡಿ ಇಲ್ಲೇ ಇಡಿ ಪ್ಯಾಥಾಲಜಿ.
Any event of death will carry feelings of guilt, stress, burnout, followed by avoidance and ultimately indifference. I mean, all of us have passed through all these stages. We know that when we are first year resident or fresh graduates, we feel guilt, lot of stress. After a few years of practice, it leads to burnout. Then silently avoidance creeps in, and then indifference becomes our nature. It is so painfully true, but it happens. Now, conventional care stops at the moment death takes place, and exploration of the phenomena of death as a process is avoided. So, number one is that we see it as an event and stop there. But we must remember that death is not only a event, it is a process. The humanists, including atheists and agnostics, they believe that the death is the end. But their number is not as big. Most succor in religion. It's a common human tendency to look to non-biological existential consideration to derive solace and relief. Now, if we take an integral perspective of death, death is to be used or is viewed as a process and not an event. And almost all religions believe that life is a journey which continues beyond death. And this belief that the life doesn't end with death is deeply rooted in psyche of people, and it carries social, religious, and spiritual implications with it. The Christians believe that death is the beginning of an everlasting life with God. And care of dying involves prayer, mass prayer, and anointment of the body with holy oils and other activities. In Islam, death is considered, it is considered that the submission to suffering is submission to God, and great importance is given to participation in prayers and rituals in the final moments of life. In Hindu, it is believed that while the physical body has a limited span of life, the underlying principle of life, the Atman, or the Supreme Spirit, is eternal and then therefore is not subjected to laws which govern the perishable physiological body. Therefore, creating a peaceful and solemn environment around the deceased person, chanting prayers, putting tulsi leaves and Ganges water into the mouth of the dead person are considered important for the soul's purity and peaceful transition from this life. The place of death, the place where death takes place, the care of the dead, and the post-death rituals all carry immense psychosocial and spiritual significance. In fact, if there is a death in the family, person comes to terms with the event of death, but he doesn't come to terms with the circumstances under which the death occurred or the circumstances which surrounded the death. Somebody suffering on ventilator for days on and so on. So all the three, the place of death, care of the dead, and post-death rituals carry immense psychosocial and spiritual significance. This is the Ghat of Varanasi, and you can see how much value people will have in their hearts about cremation on the bank of Ganga river in Varanasi. Now, the spiritual dimension of health, as per the World Health Assembly 1968 definition, it pertains to social beliefs, customs, and traditions. It pertains to rituals, religions, and culture. This is its area. And what does it do? What is its function? It enables people to develop and maintain a positive attitude towards health. So the spiritual dimension is derived from beliefs, customs, religion, culture, and it goes on to help the people to maintain a positive attitude towards health. And spiritual care tenor. So we have a physical care tenor. We were discussing a few minutes ago that patients come for disease. So they need a physical care tenor. There is suffering. So they need a psychological care tenor or emotional care tenor. And they need healing. So they need a spiritual care tenor. So spiritual care tenor has to be made part of the standard care. Now, next 3 slides I have used the caption as a hard talk. What we see in BBC or in any other channel. So the first one is that it is known that with increase in the ability to treat commonly, not always, commonly, our ability to heal goes down. The person is capable of treating huge things, then maybe his ability to heal goes down. Now, what is the meaning of healing? I'm not talking of healing in the term of pathology, that is inflammation and repair. I'm talking in terms of psychological healing. Its meaning is to restore, to reconnect, to reestablish, to soothe, and to erase. Now, are we healers? Let us ask ourselves, are we healers? We often have no idea how to comfort anyone at the time of death. The moment there is a straight line, we declare dead, we say sorry, or we tell the sister, now inform the relatives, clean the body, and then we explain. In fact, we look whether the patient is not deeply unsatisfied, there is no possibility of any legal problem, whether there is no error, all paperwork is over or not. So these things we all look, but we have no idea how to comfort somebody at the time of death because we feel that it is not our job. And What we usually do is we build a wall around us. With our white robe, we will, and stethoscope, we will build a wall around us which protects us, but also covers us. And ultimately, it hurts us as well. We must remember that if we alienate ourselves from the society, of course, it will protect us, covers us, it will give us some privacy, our own time, but somewhere it will hurt us because ours is a humane profession. If we do not withdraw from our patients, if we share grief, happiness, stories and all, then we really start beginning to live. And unfortunately, we learn the pain of our patients only when we undergo the same. Barney Siegel, in his famous book Peace, Love and Healing, has mentioned at least 3 types of healers. He says that one can be a detached healer, one can be a hurtful healer, one can be untrained healer. A detached healer is one who simply declares, like a technician, or he just explains to the patient that this is what happened, we have done, and now it is all over. So pay the bill and take the body. He's a detached healer. Untrained healer doesn't bother to look in the eyes of the patient. He often sometimes he doesn't know the basic courtesy of talking to the next of kin. And hurtful healer, in fact, he will instill a sense of guilt in the heart of the patient's relatives. Because you came late, this is what happened. Because you ignored, because he did not take care of his health. और क्या हो सकता है? ऐसा तो होगा ही ना. पहले से आपको care लेना था. So death has occurred. It is sufficiently painful event, and then he hurts as if that was not enough. Now, how can the doctors be different? Doctors are also human beings, and the intensivists, they have considerable likelihood of feeling burnout. So if a doctor is not comfortable, how can he make his patient comfortable? So there is a deeper issue. So we come to the point that healing and treatment should go together. We are in such a pious profession that we can, of course, treat, which nobody else, but we should also offer healing. And that is by connecting to the family, society, rediscovering the meaning and purpose and aim of life, connecting to one's inner self, connecting with the immanent divine, with the patient, and develop and exude wholeness and purity. This small picture says it all. Teach us to pray. It makes one to be very humble to pray. If I'm treating, then I must learn to pray, and in true humility. Now, this is a very famous quotation from Patch Adams. If you treat a disease, you may lose or win. But if you treat a patient, you always win. So it's about treating the patient as a whole. And we can treat the patient as a whole if we are practicing our medicine as a whole. Now let us talk about the intervention. We set out with the aims that we wanted to establish a protocol that sensitizes the treating team to the need to address the grief of the relatives of deceased patients. To establish a protocol that expresses empathy and gives loving care to the bereaved family. That extends homage to the departed soul in consonance with the family's cultural, religious, and spiritual beliefs. And lastly, protocol which symbolizes institutional commitment to whole person care and healing. So we started with conceptualization, with few like-minded friends. Sensitization and training sessions were held for doctors, nurses, and other staff members. An SOP was developed, and then it was adopted as an institutional practice. Feedback of next of kin was taken, also of healthcare professionals, and some amendments or modifications which were felt necessary were made. Now, I will be showing the picture of the code Krishna a little later, but it is a visible component, or we call it as an explicit component. It comprises of assemblage by the treating team at the bedside of the expired patient. So when the patient expires, the treating team will stand at the bedside, will pay floral tribute. All the members of the team, be it a doctor, a resident, an intern, a servant, nurse, and family members, will observe a few minutes silence, and if possible, or if it is so convenient, will recite or play a prayer on the audio device. This is in one slide what is called Krishna, what is visible, but it is an invisible or an implicit component. When we stand beside the patient's body, the team, it means that the team connects with the family and expresses respect for the deceased and oneness with the bereaved family. So, standing at the side of the dead body of at least few doctors and nurses and the relatives means, or it is not visible, but it is experiential. It expresses respect for the deceased and it expresses oneness with the bereaved family. And creating a silent space amidst busy environments of wards of patient care areas. Silent space in an attitude of invocation of the divine. So, standing at the side of the patient, closing the eyes, standing in a gesture of invocation, that itself will help, or it conveys an attitude that we are facilitating comfortable departure of the soul. For those who believe, of course, in a way it is called a death midwifery. If those who do not believe, it's a social practice. But all religions believe that the soul leaves the body, and if it is living, there has to be a departure. So if when a child is born in the family is with full all joy. It's a celebration. There is a appropriate respect for the moment of birth. We name the practice as Code Krishna because when we say code, it conveys a sense of urgency or an assiduous responsibility. See, we have code blue, code red, code black, code gray, etc. So we said it is code. And Krishna, because our hospital is Sri Krishna Hospital, it also means that it symbolizes our institutional commitment to give unmatched humane experience in the moment of death. And Krishna, in any case, it's a divine deity or God, which is people turn to for safe passage to the worlds beyond. So we named it as a code Krishna. Now we did face several problems, and we still have some problems sometimes. They are avoidance. To begin with, there was avoidance by some of the medical fraternity because they say that this has to be done at the patient's home. We are busy. We have other patient who is dying. So this is not part of our job. Second difficulty which we faced was there were genuine priorities. There was a call to be attended. There was some procedure to be done, patient to be intubated, etc., etc. Third was that people were not very sensitive. The heart was not coming in front. I mean, people were so close that they said, okay, it's a practice, let us do it. And therefore, lack of practicing wholeheartedly. These still remain with changing staff and other things. Every time we have to train them again and again and convey. However, everybody his emotional sensibility may not be same, and everybody may not be fully committed to providing spiritual care tenor. So that happens, but that doesn't mean that the practice is not casting any effect. Practice is showing its effect. Next thing, the fifth one is very important and interesting. Some of us raised a point that if you are praying for one patient in ICU, the next bed patient who is also serious, he will start trembling because he will think that today his turn has come, tomorrow my turn will come. Naturally, because he is serious on vasopressors and ventilator and some relative has come. We thought this could be a genuine problem. But believe me, that when we started practicing it, all patients in the ICU, except of course those who were under sedation, they looked at us as human beings. They looked at the human being in the doctor. And I have gone to many patients next moment after conducting Code Krishna, and they have, rather than getting afraid, they have expressed that, Doctor, this was very, very special and very, very unique.
এখানে যে কোনো পাথওয়ে লিখতে গেলে প্রথমে মানে এইগুলোই মেনশন করতে হবে। হ্যাঁ, হেডিং দিয়ে মিনস যেটা হচ্ছে অরিজিন, কোথা থেকে হয়েছে। হ্যাঁ, যে একটা যে কোনো পাথওয়ে দিলে অ্যাসেন্ডিং হোক আর
Right. So this was an academic fear, a theoretical fear, but when the patients see us doing this prayer, even that patient is serious, a respect comes out from their heart. That look, here is a team which is doing everything which is necessary medically, but is also doing what is necessary humanly. Now you can see in this picture the nurses and ward boy and the relative are standing at the bedside. There is a small tray here in which you can see the picture of Lord Krishna. Some flowers are there. There is Bible here, and you can see flowers put on the bed on the near the foot end of the patient. This is the Lord Krishna veneration tray. It's a very simple tray. You find, say, depending upon the faith, the staff in the ICU will put the book or any article of their religion. And we found that they all serve the same cause. So you find, in fact, this paper, the picture, this is how we started. I asked my resident to take a printout of Code Krishna, and then I said, okay, let's start. And then we had a picture of Lord Krishna. There's flower, lotus. And there are sisters who are Christians, so they put Bible. And it's simple. It is not in the tray that is more important. It is in the heart which is more important. Now look at the emotions of this lady. I don't think that in many of the ICUs, the people would stand by side of the patient and give a space for a lady who has lost her husband. Like this. Everybody, the flowers on the foot end of above the foot of the dead person are put by all the members whom we are seeing. And when it is over, the body is taken out. Sometimes we may not have flowers in the middle of the night. Our sister used to keep flowers in the freeze from the garden. But again, I am saying it is not flowers which is important, not tray which is important. Tray is necessary as a symbol, as an anchor. But more important is gathering together and observing silence. This is more important. This gesture is, it tells 1,000 words. Is the audio audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Audio from the video?
No, sir.
Your talk is audible.
All right. So this gentleman is praying, is singing Vasudeva Sutam Devam. And interestingly, this is our intensivist, this is another intensivist, God boy and the relatives. Now this sister, she was our in-charge sister in the ICU. She is Christian by religion. And she would do quote Krishna to all our patients. If required, she would recite her prayer. And we found no difference, no difficulty in expression of the deeper feelings. One may use a name, one may not use a name, but expressing homage to the departed soul, praying for the soul is above religion. Once it so happened that I was passing by the trauma and somebody told me that there is a quote Krishna to be done. So I rushed in and from my mobile, I played the 15th Adhyay of the Bhagavad Gita. Patient had just breathed his last. So I thought that is the right thing to do. So I kept the mobile on the patient's chest and played some shlokas and prayed in all oneness, in all sincerity. The relatives started crying and they thanked me immensely. Later on, I came to know that the relatives were from a different religion. They were not Hindus, but they didn't mind that. They found that at a moment, I mean, within 30 seconds of somebody breathing last, there is someone who is praying. The words or text doesn't matter. Again, I'm sorry, this is a picture of this Somnath, and there is the video actually has a Mahamrityunjay shloka. So often we pray the Mahamrityunjay shloka when the patient dies. This is inside the orthopedics ward where the patient died. This was one of the patient which died in a special room, and you can see that there are flowers on the tray, there's flowers on the chest, and relative and the resident doctor and the other staff are there. This is quote Krishna during COVID. Everybody is with PPE kit. There is nobody to talk to, no relatives around, only treating team, and they are doing the COVID. Of course, we have not done it all deaths. It was logistically not possible. but we of course did in many of the COVID patients who died. And it's a small gesture. The only person to see this is the God above. This was a Mohammedan patient, and they said that now we come to the reflections. What were the patients and other healthcare professionals' reflections? So these patients, the relative felt that the practice filled our heart with gratitude and eyes with tears. Somebody else wrote that it is far exceeding expectations in most crucial moments of hospitalization. It is very rare to be found anywhere. Some other patients say that it was beyond our widest imagination that the treating team will stand with us in silence and recite a prayer, solemnly observing the moment of death inside the critical care unit. That person writes, I was deeply moved by the spontaneity with which the whole team quickly gathered. And the care of the dead has to be like this always. Look at the word that she has chosen. This is a letter from some other relative. Dear Dr. Vaishnav, we pen this letter to sincerely thank you and appreciate that the entire medicine team for very prompt and affectionate medical treatment to Srimati Jayaben Thakur, 88, during her 25 days of hospitalization. The daughter writes further, while we lost our mom, it was rare to witness an attending senior-most physician to chant Gita shlokas as a tribute to the departing soul. We were choked, felt privileged and honored, and words are too scant to express our respect, thanks, and gratitude to you and your team. Sir, your human approach will go deep down the memory lanes. The last word is important. The trauma which is inflicted by the death is very deep. And only thing which can go deeper than that is divine love. Not human love, not practice, not protocol. And this code Krishna veneration, we very humbly believe can become a channel for instilling something that, as she wrote, will go deep down the memory lane. After all, that will heal her trauma. Whether one antibiotic was used or second, or ventilator or not, that will not heal. It will heal by these feelings. There was one very senior head in our institution. She was in a leadership position. And she is a spiritual seeker. So she only said that my grief vanished. Now if somebody's mother dies, whether mother is old or young, but when the mother dies, the feelings are different. And when Quote Krishna was done, she said that as if like a magic wand, my grief vanished. Such words cannot come from nowhere. They come from deep of the heart. The nurses felt that this practice brings stillness in the environment, which brings peace. The silence is so unique, said one nurse. And the postgraduate students were awestruck. They are all tired, working day and night. And to have a few deep breaths and be simple human beings was exceptional. Now the PG student in this photograph, he went and to saw another hospital after his MD. Then one day his SMS came. Sir, I have done Quote Krishna in my hospital, Zydus or hospital. So he carried the lamp. See, we are in medical college, and the actions, the practices will be greatly imbibed by students who are part of the practice. Now, this is also very pure. One OT sister, she wrote, she was not very good in English. She wrote she mailed me. There are so many linguistic errors. But what she wrote was something like this, that we were doing practice for the first time in an infant, and we played music from our mobile. And during the prayer, relatives were crying. And after some time, we also started crying. And such innocence. We felt a sense of fulfillment, and we felt one with the family. Now, when you stand like this, believe me, my all colleagues and seniors and students, if you simply stand like this in front of a dead body, you may sit, you may stand like this otherwise also, but put a flower and stand like this. You become simply human. Your robe is of no value. You simply are on the same page, same platform, like any other human being. And the feeling which comes out is that of the divinity. That fills the space, that fills the heart, that fills the ICU. And I think professional fulfillment is also not complete word. I think we cannot describe it. It's neither, I mean, it's becoming, it's being, whatever you want to call it, but it is non-describable. Now, conclusions. What have we learned? Number one, we have learned that this process does not, one is inclusiveness. We could have posted, or we could have appointed a pastor or some Maharaj to do this for any death occurring in our hospital. That if there is a death, the person will, Maharaj will, the priest will get a call and he will come and put tulsi and do puja, etc. We did not do that. We deliberately did that only the treating team should pay the homage. So first is inclusiveness. It does not rely on influences that are external to the actual hospital environment. Second, that when a medical team gathers at the bedside of a deceased patient, it does help the bereaved family to derive strength and solace. It doesn't feel let off. Third, I have not talked so far about it, that it does a lot of self-healing. Believe me, whether a person is in distress or a person is in form of detachment or avoidance or indifference, it means any of this thing happening in a doctor means that he is somewhere hurting himself. It may be undercover, but he requires healing. Doctor also requires healing because after all he is handling another life which is lost. So it helps in de-stressing the healthcare team. All clinicians, they need measures to unburden themselves. It is beyond doubt. After all, anything good that you do for the others will bring good to you in abundance. After all, Tulsidas did not write Ramayana for others. He said, I am writing it for me. 4. You can see the numbers 4, 5, 6 have the size, font size is more. 4 is that the care of departed by creating silence passage of the soul. Now nobody has seen it, but we read and we believe. It brings about synthesis of material and non-material dimensions of care within the framework of modern hospital. This is very important. We have non-material dimensions in temples, at our home, and we have material dimensions in the hospital. Now this quote Krishna will bring about both within the framework of the modern hospital. Everybody will watch. 5th is its collaborative wisdom in healthcare. This practice demonstrates an example of collaborative wisdom of East and West. It is not like that either East or West, or neither East if West is there, or nor East if, nor West if East is there. It's a collaborative wisdom. Wisdom of East combined with wisdom of West combined. Technique and skills of West, materialism of West, and wisdom and prayer and spiritual character of East. So that is the need. Sixth is pedagogy. In a medical institution, this practice serves as a deeper educational objective. In a word, this is what we owe to our patients, our students, and indeed, truly to ourselves. Last, but not the least, we have learned that spiritual dimension or a character is ingrained in every human being. We only need to bring it out. It's not that only priest will have a spiritual dimension and a servant will not have, or a super specialist will not have. Everyone, every human being, whether he believes in God or not, whether he believes in one religion or not, it is ingrained in every human being. It has to be seen to be believed. You look at this picture. Whom will you say is not praying? Everybody is praying. A small child lying in trauma, quote Krishna, and we found that it is the entry gate for introducing fourth dimension in mainstream care. By fourth dimension, we mean the dimension of a divinity. This provides a gate because our modern science, right from the day of Macaulay's education, with its heavy materialistic contents, we have forgotten the softness that our Indian culture and civilization provide. We have gone far from our Indian realities, but this will provide it. Now, this is a video. I will play the music from my mobile, and I will play the what next? Our experiences further inspired us to take up whole person care in the hospital, especially in critical areas. We have worked out some means of extended quote Krishna, that is to provide spiritual and emotional support to those patients who are pre-terminal. We have started taking, in fact, it is not ongoing, spiritual history of some of the patients. And we have started eliciting history to know the patient as an individual. When you talk to the patient as an individual, a glow will be seen on his face will be lit, even if it's pre-terminal. If you look at the patient as a patient, he is condemned to death. Finally, this beautiful lines from Aurobindo Savitri. This bodily appearance is not all. The form deceives. The person is a mask. Hid deep in men, celestial powers can dwell. This fragile ship conveys through the sea of years, an incognito of the imperishable. Thank you. Any comments, suggestions, questions? I'll be happy to
Yeah, thank you very much, sir. It was indeed a very, very, what to say, very touching talk. That's what I could say from listening to you. Actually, to think of death as part of life and helping the people who have been left behind. So I think that is a very unique concept. And even though many people can actually think about it, but how do we make this idea into a practice? And how do you make this practice, which is one person's initiative, into something which is institutionalized? It's what has come out of your study. And we really appreciate the work you have done in this particular field. And but sir, any comments before we take the questions?
It is a very interesting talk. He has taken us from treating to healing, and he has trained several doctors, which I think definitely will have impregnated on them for a long time. I think I don't know how much time it has been taken to train the people, or one group trains the other, or he trains them daily. I think that is also important. So I want to know from him whether he has got something regular training program for the new residents who come, or they by looking at others they learn, and whether this practice has reduced attack on doctors and hospital healthcare workers, because before we do Lord Krishna, they should not pounce on us. So whether such incidents also take place, or because Lord Krishna is being done, the patients and their relatives are more subtle than other places. So I would like to know from you, sir, how long this training is going on, or is it a training on the workplace itself? That is, one person sees the other and learns from that. And the attack on healthcare workers, whether it occurs or never occurs.
Right. Sir, thank you for your comments. And I think every foundation course that we have for the postgraduate students, we take a session on this. The other is on the workplace, where they observe and then do it. Second thing, in my department, I often get an opportunity because they are medicine residents, and I talk to them and we practice, so people know it. And we do not train every new entrance in a sense that every nurse joining or any other class 4, because that is a very fluid type of population. But still, some regular orientation does take place. And during COVID, we used to have many sessions, so we used to take this also. So by and large, most of the doctors, even if this changing population, they know, or they would know within few months of joining the college or the postgraduate studies. We teach in the undergraduate classes also whenever foundation course is there. And about the attacks on the doctors, we don't have much attacks, either physical. Sometimes there may be verbal attacks, but I have experienced also that the moment a patient, his relative is brought to the body and prayer is done, these things dilute out, or they melt, as it were. It has a big, we have not done any scientific study, but I'm sure that looking at the totality of the team and the commitment, many questions are not raised. They get dissolved without being, they don't need answers.
As you rightly said, irrespective of religion, spirituality is important probably for any human being. And as doctors also, otherwise they will be more of treating the patient rather than healing. And the WHO also has added spirituality to the total health of the individual. So I think it is very important that doctors also understand that spirituality is as important as learning medicine or surgery and healthcare.
Taking this discussion on spirituality forward, there is a very interesting question from Dr. Atkoli in the chat box. He says this is a very good, excellent concept and practice. But how do you go about changing the mindset of medical professionals who are not exposed to spirituality, especially the current Gen X kids who are coming? They are very, what do I say? The word I can describe is they're very superficial, right? They want their 15 minutes of fame in the Facebook, Instagram generation. So how do you expose them to the spirituality or imbibe this concept of spirituality in them?
No,
That's the
we first of all if such a practice is going on, they feel now the taste of cake is in tasting it or eating it. So once they see it in their relatives or any their patient, or they simply observe, then they realize this is not an intellectual education. This is more of a psychological or experiential education. And if they see even few persons doing it, they will follow. And second, as a professor in Department of Medicine, I often put this thing in my training or teaching, and sometimes in exam also, because this is not outside syllabus. Spiritual dimension of health is not outside syllabus. So if I ask a question in MD, the student has to know. If I ask a seminar on spiritual dimension of health, the student has to prepare. And one of our students had a dissertation on spiritual history. So we can start small things, but it works out. I agree that all the participants in the health cadre, probably the doctors are most difficult to bring them around. The nurses and ward boys, they understand. They will simply stand mute. But doctors, it's not impossible. That was my seventh conclusion, that it is not visible, but it is there. Even if a student is superficial, money oriented, then also spirituality is ingrained. So if we start with this conviction, somebody is completely westernized, then also we will be able to touch his psyche somewhere. And that's how we puncture his shell. And that's how we move on. It's doable, I can say. I've been practicing it for many years, but I've been able to convince my students, not from the beginning, after some years, but then maybe when I grew, I could convince them. So it takes time, but it is possible, doable, and must be done.
So it's the snowball effect which actually gains momentum as it goes on. And there is a very interesting observation by Dr. Rangaswamy Srinivasan. He feels that grievance counseling and support is usually being provided for family. But for healthcare workers, it is only the documentation in such scenarios. So we are trying to humanize this care of the healthcare workers who are especially involved in critical care and emergency medicine, the first contact physicians. They are also being supported. I think that is what it is. There is one more comment by Dr. Arun Daniel. He feels that death midwifery is a very beautiful term and should be part of EdCom in training our students.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Sir, I have one question to ask you. You showed us a picture of this quote Krishna during COVID. So could you actually elaborate? Because the entire thing, what all of us were scared when we were exposed to COVID is, as individuals, will we be dying alone? Because the whole way the death was treated in COVID was very dehumanizing people, right? So that was something which was always troubling people, like, will I go like that? So can you actually elaborate what you did during COVID, this modifications of Code Krishna?
So, I mean, to be frank, we did not do the Code Krishna in all the patients. Like everywhere else, we were also afraid. But once we knew the disease a little bit, and we are comfortable with putting on the PPEs and maybe more than half of the first phase was over, we used to have every week, our duty roster would change every week for COVID posting. And before commencement of every week's roster, we would have half a day training sessions for them, letting them know what is the current status, what is this treatment protocols, what are the facilities available, donning, doping. So we also added this. And our residents were doing Code Krishna otherwise also before COVID. So it was not new for them. And it was not done for all, it was done for some, I must tell that. And the relatives were out. When COVID seriousness was less, then the body was brought out at the gate of the ICU in the corridor. On one side, the relatives would be there, on the other side, the doctors would be there, and then the body would be carried. But still, having said that we did it, I must also accept that it was not complete.
There are some other interesting observations by Dr. Shubhadra in the chat box. This person feels that this whole exercise very heartwarming and compassionate and a beautiful way to pay tribute to the departed soul and to support the family. But there is a question, how did you come up with this concept? What made you start this?
Thank you for asking this question. You see, in the ICU, when a pregnant lady was serious and was dying, my heart started melting. The infant is alive and the mother is dying. Even before the patient died, I told my team, let us pray. There are 10 patients in ICU, we're an old ICU. If there is any one patient who needs God intervention, it is this. Because his child has not seen his mother's face. So let us pray. So it started with living patients' prayer and of vulnerable population. Somebody young dying, young boy with meningitis, a postpartum woman. Then even those patients who die, in spite of all our effort, we would simply pray. Then I was discussing with our CEO, and he said that this should be converted into a practice. You alone are doing is not enough. There should be a protocol. There should be an SOP. At some point of time, we had an open ICU. So the idea was to declare it on a public announcement system. But now we have a closed ICU. So it doesn't go like an announcement. But anybody who is there on the duty will come. Doctor will come, nurses will definitely come. Doctors may come sometimes, sometimes they may not come. But that's how it started.
Thank you very much for sharing this experience with us, sir. Like if you remember the recent Lancet Commission report, which came out and talked about let's bring death back to life. And I think you and your team have actually brought death back to life and make it as part of our journey. It's only a temporary stop on the way to go. So I think that is the message we get it. And it is possible for us to treat the dying and death with dignity. And it is more than possible for us to teach this concept to our students and residents. I think that is the lesson we have learned today from your talk. Thank you very much for sharing this experience.
Just one point I'll say that you see the self-help which this practice gives is immense. You on any day you let an intensivist or a physician go at the bedside and simply pray. If he does that, a dead body, I'm talking of a dead body, then is it as if he is removing his robe, putting away his stethoscope? He's simply becoming human and pure human. And that we carry so much burden with us all the time. And we have so many responsibilities, this duty, obligations, paperwork, this, that, patients' files, etc. But to become simply human in a moment of when the treatment ends, there is something more to do. And this is what Code Krishna is about. When there is a straight line, there is still something that remains to be done, and that is in the benefit of the human being as a whole. I mean, in totality.
Right. Thank you very much, sir. With that, we would like to conclude this episode. This was a very interesting one, and hope we will be back with another interesting episode on the first week of December. So FFF is not every Friday nowadays. FFF is on the first Friday of every month. So we will be back on December 2nd with another interesting talk. With that, we would like to conclude, and we'd also like to tell our participants that the MU AVMC is organizing the second international conference on innovations in health professions education. So the brochure has been shared with all of you. So people who are interested can still come and listen to many of interesting innovations in healthcare education in the conference. Thank you very much for your presence. We'll meet you next month. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Namaste.
Bye, sir.
Thank you. Bye.